Hello again. After you've completed your multi-view hand sketches, we're going to move into AutoCAD to make a more technical drawing. Now, the AutoCAD version, I'm actually working on my Macintosh, so what you see on your screen might be a little bit different than what we have on the PCs at school. However, the commands and the methodology should be replicable for everyone using AutoCAD. So that being said, we're going to start. And I've opened up an AutoCAD document. If you have no previous experience with AutoCAD, there are several tutorial videos online that you can make reference to first before going through this. But to give you a general overview of some of the tools that we're going to be using, I'll do that now. Primarily, we are going to be using the Polyline tool to create these, to actually draw this, the multi-view shapes. To activate that tool, I use a lot of shortcut commands, and this is typical with AutoCAD in general. You have the ability to click on these kind of GUIs, these graphical user interfaces, or type things into command prompt line, or just type them in space. So in this instance, I'm going to hit PL for Polyline, and you see as I do that, and on my Macintosh version of CAD at least, it begins to display potential actions or elements that PL coincide with. In this instance, is Polyline. Polylines allow you to draw straight segments and also curved segments without having to transition between the line tool and the arc tool, and that's why we should be using them. In this instance, I'm drawing a straight line, so I'm going to hit A for arc and return or spacebar. And that is another key point. To enter commands in AutoCAD, you have to hit enter after you've typed something in, or spacebar, which is an alternative to hitting the enter button. And you'll have to do that every command that you do in AutoCAD. You'll become quickly accustomed to that. And as you see, I'm panning here now. On my Macintosh, I have to hold the spacebar. If you are on your PC or on a different mouse with a third click on your scroll wheel, you can actually just hold that down. And can I duplicate that here? I'm on my Magic Mouse. Well, even on my Magic Mouse, and I've set some profiles. Typically, you can't do this on Magic Mouse if you happen to be on a Macintosh, but there are supplemental programs. In this case, I think I'm using Magic Mouse preferences that enable you to do that. But on a PC, you should be able to hold your the scroll wheel down and allow you to pan. Also, you can scroll in and out, zoom in and out of your document using your scroll wheel on a PC. And the Magic Mouse, it works very similar. I'm just wiping my hand or my fingertip up and down on my mouse to allow me to scroll kind of in or zoom in and out. So I'm going to draw these lines, and you'll notice that arcs are generated for you. There's the curvature of the arc. It always creates clean lines, which is different than what you experience using the Bezier tool. Bezier, I might be mispronouncing that, in Illustrator or Photoshop using the pen tools. It works a little bit different. So that is the basic tool that we'll be using. Also, some basic functionality. We need to draw a simple line here. Say we're coming to this side. If you want to get things straight, to come at a 90-degree angle, excuse me, you would hit F8 on a PC. I'm having to hold the function and F8 key on my Macintosh, but when I do that, you'll see that. Let me do that again. F8. You'll see that my line then only allows me to snap to 90-degree angles. So that's how you keep things straight in your drawing. And this is the equivalent of using a T-square to make sure your lines are straight. Okay. There's that. That's good to know about. And you want to toggle these things on and off. So once you've set it, if you try to go in again with the Polyline tool, you see that I'm still on ortho. And to turn off ortho, you simply would hit your F8 again. I'm doing the function F8 to allow you to transition back to your normal line or Polyline tool at any angle that you select. Okay. Delete that, and you see me, I'm selecting and simply hitting delete to get rid of these lines. Another common tool would be copy. I think this would be useful for you. So if I have a line here, I'm just type in copy. I'm going to select it, right click again to enter the command, select a displacement point, a base point, and you can copy elements over and over and over again, relatively easy in AutoCAD. Let me do a zoom, Z, enter, E, enter. Zoom extents brings, so say for instance I have something here, and let me do here, and as you see, if I type in zoom extents, it brings everything into focus. So here, let me do a zoom extents. Come here, just draw these separate lines. So when I hit zoom extents now, it brings everything on my page into focus for me. Okay, it's good to know. Another very useful tool is going to be your mirror tool. So I'm going to draw a straight line here. I'm going to use my ortho. Draw down. I'm going to draw a line out. Now you see I'm able to snap to these points. If you don't see an icon, in this case it looks like a green square up here. Your O snap is off. In order to turn on your O snap, you would hit F3. I'm going to select function F3 for me, and when I do that, you notice that those boxes disappear. It's not allowing me to automatically connect to these lines. I'm going to turn that back on, and you'll toggle that on and off constantly. That is something that you'll quickly become accustomed to in working in CAD. So I'm going to turn back on my O snap. Well, now within O snap, and I have these icons here, and you can have you might see icons or the description written out for you. I'm going to right click on my option and go to settings. Now within settings here, you will notice that you have different snap options, so the endpoint, midpoint, center node, quadrant, intersection, extension, so on and so forth. So you can select the type of connection or snap modes that you would like to enable here. Typically the endpoint, midpoint, center point, and node, perpendicular definitely, parallel are ones that you should have selected. Also extension is a good one to have. So, and you can toggle these things all at the same time, select all, clear all, and so on and so forth. And there's also, and since we're here, some of the other options you have are your snap grid, and then you could actually display a grid in CAD. But we're going to draw to scale, so for this particular exercise I don't believe that's necessary, but you can enable a grid to help you with your drawings. You also have the ability to set angle increment snaps. So you can, right now it's at 90, but you can go 45 and 30, 22.5, so on and so forth. 3D object snap we're not using because we're not using the 3D capabilities of CAD. And that is worth mentioning. Though we are not using AutoCAD as a three-dimensional program currently, it doesn't mean it doesn't have those capabilities. And though you might not be able to information model in AutoCAD, at least in this version without using Revit or Civil 3D, you still have the ability to create three-dimensional objects. So if you would like to explore those options, please feel free. I'm sure there's many tutorials online to help you through that process. Dynamic input is just allowing you, when I talked about putting the command prompt in what you see. You can change some of those viewing options and settings here. Alright, so let's get started with that. That is enough, I believe, to do this exercise. And really the best teacher for AutoCAD to learn the program is experience. So it just requires you really getting into the program and going through projects, unfortunately now, and kind of beating your head against the wall or your computer screen until you kind of get it. Tutorial videos for me help a lot. So I would highly recommend watching many tutorial videos as you go through these processes when you're trying to achieve something in CAD. And another thing to mention is there's many ways to accomplish tasks within AutoCAD. So just because I'm demonstrating one way doesn't mean it's necessarily the best way or even the most efficient way. So please, again, feel free to explore different options and grow your knowledge base of the program. So what we're going to do first is import the image. Now you should have scanned your multi-view sketches at this point on the copy machine and have them sent to your email. If you don't know how to do that, you need to contact myself or Miss Primus in the office, and either of us can help walk you through that process. But you should be able to scan your drawings to yourself. And when you have that done, you're going to simply open up AutoCAD. I'm going to type in the command IM, enter. It brings up my image reference manager, and my box is going to look a little bit different than yours, but it's the same principle. You're looking for the attach reference dialog box. You might have to hold yours down and toggle through your different selection options, giving you the option to either import a DWG or another image file, JPEG or a PDF. I have all files selected for this one. I'm navigating to my combined sketched PDF. I'm going to select open. Something else worth mentioning is when you have images in, and you might see some drags occur when I'm sketching over this. That's typical. Even though you're referencing an image, it can sometimes slow down your program. I find that PDF documents work a lot better than JPEGs typically to trace and go over. So what you see is the preliminary sketches that I've created, thinking hopefully that they're right. Some of them might be a little off, and this is the time where we can begin to refine it. And I find that even after refining it here in CAD, doing the multi-view, when you begin 3D modeling this in whatever program, in this case we'll be using SketchUp, there still might be changes that you make. So none of this is in concrete. This is still very conceptual piece, and I want you to treat it like that for this project. So layers. Layers is another important concept within AutoCAD, as in Photoshop, and you'll see that in a lot of the programs that we use. And I really don't expect that to change in the future, even though hopefully the interfaces and the ease of use will change, becoming more easy to use in the future with our software. The idea of layers, I don't believe, will go anywhere. So right now, you always start with a 0 layer, and that's what this image has been brought in on. Now I have my properties dialog box open here to my right, which I like working with, and you can have that same option by clicking on an image and right-clicking and going to properties, which will bring up your properties dialog box, and you can snap it to the left or right side of your screen to keep it up. So right now you'll notice that under the layers here it's on 0. So what I want to do is create a new layer, and I'm going to call this lines, and I'm going to click and change that layer to red. Now I believe your option might be a little bit different, the dialog that you see, but when you have your layers open, you want to change that color to red. And again, I apologize for not being on the PC. I just work on Mac, and we don't have any of the recording software I need to do these videos at school, at least right now. So, but we are working on that. So if you have any questions about that part's confusing, again, you can ask me or email me, and I can give you more specific directions for that. And as a matter of fact, hopefully maybe I can find a link to that to add to this video to show you all, but bear with me. So I'm creating a lines layer, and I'm going to double click on it to make sure that I'm on that layer. It's current, and I'm going to type in PL for Polyline, and what I'm going to do is begin to trace this shape. I'm not worrying about scaling right now. I just want to trace this shape and get this outline clean. So I'm going to turn off my ortho and begin coming down here, and I'm going to hit A for arc because I want to be on the same line, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off my O snap as well. So I'm coming here, drawing down. Looks decent to me. And I'll adjust this as I go along, but just want to get it kind of roughly drawn now. I'm going to Control Z. Control Z you'll find is a very common command for a lot of the programs that we use that allow you to just take a step back from whatever input that you had just entered. And I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to turn back on my O snap, and so I could snap and finish that line cleanly. And as I do that, nothing happened. And as I do it again, there it goes. Okay. So now I kind of have this shape. And I'm just going to pull these grip points down a little bit to smooth it out. And we'll smooth out a little bit more too. But also, I know that I had intended for this to be on the same level. So they would both rest on the surface at the same point. So I'm going to create a surface line here, and I'm just going to go turn back on my ortho, And you'll see here that this is already overlapping, so that's a problem. So I want to bring that up anyway. That's my line. Let me move that down. Offset is another common tool. So I'm going to hit O. In this case, I'm going to hit T for through. You can also specify an exact distance that you would like. And I'm just going to snap down to this line so it touches. I don't have to move the whole thing. And then delete the previous one. So I know that that's flat now, so when I bring this line down, I should hit it at the same point. So it's always smart to use these references when you draw these pieces like that. Another common tool that you use is called extension. So I'm just drawing a line. I'm going to hit EX for extend, enter, select the line, enter again, and then select the line that I want to extend to that point. And that's going to begin to kind of create my base. Now I'm going to come in here again, and my O snap is still on. And so is my ortho, so I'm going to turn ortho off. And let me go ahead and turn that O snap off too. It is, okay, so kind of following that line. A for arc coming down. Polyline again. Now you'll notice that if you hit a point and you want to immediately do an arc, so you hit A for arc, you can do that. That's fine. Typically, when you draw these shapes, though, you want to give yourself at least one straight line segment. And let me demonstrate that. Actually, this might work because it looks like it's a perfect arc, but let me demonstrate. So we turn back on my O snap. All right, and it's snapping. Zoom in. Oh, okay, so I'm not gonna do a straight line segment and just hit A for arc. You see that it's not allowing me to follow that same shape. It's immediately creating an arc from that point. So typically when you draw these things, you want to use it with a straight line segment first. So I'm going to come up here and hit A. And actually I should just sweep that thing straight down. Hit A again. And that's good. Okay. Now I want to just turn off this image layer temporarily. Now what you can do is under your reference manager actually click on it and right click to unload and it'll disappear. But if you've used a layer, you can simply turn the layer off. And I think that's more effective in this case. And I'm just going to play with this shape some just to clean it up. I want it to be a little bit nicer. The curves. That's a little abnormal. I don't mind that so much there. And of course, if you're designing real estate furniture, there's probably ergonomic parameters that you would use to help establish these points to make sure that it was really working smoothly. This is just an exercise, so we're not going to worry about that, but that is something to be aware of. And you see on these grip points, I can kind of, play with these a little bit. Let's scoot it up. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to use another common tool. It's called trim. So it's TR, enter. And I'm just going to clip those lines here. Great. And let me just, okay, that's good. So now we have the first shape, and you would do each shape like this, but you would use this as a reference. So I'm going to turn back on the image layer. And I know that in my drawing, my intent was to make the entire length of this piece 7 feet. So I'm just going to offset again this line to the very point or the tip of the outline of this piece of site furniture, and to the tip here. I'm just gonna let me turn back on ortho. Come up. All right. Now what I want to do is scale this thing now. Now if I type in units, you'll notice that I'm in decimal. I tend to work in decimal because I don't like having to put 1 and then actually put the foot and then put in 6 and actually put in the inch marker to specify my distances. I like to just, I'm lazy, I like to say 1.5. So we need to scale this, and we're going to scale it using that same reference. So the scale, I'm going to hit SC for scale, and I'm going to select everything that I like to scale in my drawing, enter. It's going to ask me for a base point. I'm just going to let that be 0. It's fine. I'm going to use R for reference because I'm going to use these reference points, because I know that from here to here, my design intent was to have it 7 feet. So I'm going to type in 7, enter. Now it goes away, but we can recall our previous command that we learned, zoom extents. So it's Z, enter, E, enter, and it should pop it back into focus. The difference is now that if we dimension this, which is part of this exercise, so let me demonstrate that. If we dimension this, it should be, let me go ahead and create another layer for dimensions as well. Oh, let me spell it right too. Let me change the color so we can easily distinguish it, and double click on this. And I'm going to dimensions aligned. Now you have a ribbon, and that's really the biggest difference on the Mac and the PC right now, is that you all have a ribbon that has the same, pretty much the same parameters or the same window options available that I see here, but it's just in a ribbon format, so some of that might be confusing, but you can either use the help menu to help navigate to those, or just ask me directly. So I'm using the dimension tool, so dimension aligned, fine. I'm gonna click point to point, and when I bring this thing down, it should read 7 feet. Now, I believe, let me go into my units. I've modified this. Have I modified this? That's fine. Okay. What you can do is change the dim style and type this in. If it doesn't say 7 feet for you, you can modify these things. So I'm going to modify, and you'll notice that you can change your arrow size and also the arrow type. So rather than having just arrows, I want to use the architectural tick. And as I do that, it changes here on this side. And there's no preview, I don't believe, for this, but it should change and update this information. You could also change your text size and everything here as well. Primary units are on 1, that's fine. If it's not reading 7, let me actually go. So it's saying decimal. I'll make it engineering. When I do that, I'm going to have to scale it by 12. And let me change the precision, just so that when it displays, rather than just saying 7, it'll say 7 feet and give the tick mark for us. So I select OK and close, and it should update your document for you. So after you've drawn these things, what you should definitely do is go back and dimension your object. So definitely the length and the height for each of these multi-view documents, and that'll help inform you and make sure that you're doing these things correctly. Now I have my initial form in. Another thing you can do is an offset tool, and I've done this before, but now we'll do it to precision. So I'm going to offset, and I know I did this thing 0.2, I believe, to kind of create that inner piece that I had on my initial drawing. And you can really get pretty accurate with these, and you see that I actually, and let me demonstrate that. Let me change that up. I didn't bring it out as far. And again, feel free to change these. Again, this is just an approximation. It was a sketch, so I expect these to kind of change. But I'm going to take off my ortho here and hit A and wrap around, connect. Let me turn off the imagery that I've done that. Now I'm drawing, see, I'm drawing in my dimension layer, which is a no-no. I want to double click back on my lines layer. Now to change this, there's several different ways. The easy way for me is to do a match properties, and it's typing in MA, enter. I'm selecting the line that I want this to be, or the layer that I want it to be with the properties, and then simply selecting that, and you'll see it changes to red, and it's on the lines layer. Now when I have that, I'm going to use my trim tool, TR. I'm going to select both of these objects, enter, and just trim those points. and get rid of the leftover data. And I zoom in, you'll see there's kind of this overlap. So what I want to do is connect these lines, and there. That one's connected, there's no overlap there. Now there's overlap. Okay, so let's just bring that guy back. There. So you can begin to modify these pieces too. Okay. Now, there are more pieces to this puzzle, right? So let's turn back on our drawings. Now you have this one shape drawn, so it's important that when you're doing a technical drawing that all the parts coincide. So what I like to do then is to, let me create a line here, let me turn back on my ortho, and I'm going to extend these lines to it, right? Because this means this is my width. I know that this is the width, and I know that's right. All right. Now this was close, but it's not dead on. So we're going to make sure that this rest point for this piece of site furniture is going to be exactly where we've drawn it here in this above elevation, and that the tip of the curvature of the piece is going to end at the same point that it ends here. And really just using these things as references. So you would just redraw this shape. Now in this view we don't know the width, so the width is not a big deal, but the width here and here should then coincide too. So you're just building these pieces off one another, and I just draw simple guidelines to act as references for myself. So I'm going to come back and just draw a center line, and this is going to be a cool part of using the mirror tool and how powerful that can be. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to take off ortho, F8, and take off the O step for now as well. And it's F3. I'm going to make just a little bit of a straight line. Well, not even that. Maybe I can just arc this one out actually. Oh, no. Let me make a little bit of a straight line. Okay, and I'm going to hit A to arc out. Okay. And I'll modify my shape a little bit, and just to keep that cleaner arc. And to show you all, here, say it's here, and here, and I will end that. Oh, I hit F3. You need to hit F3 again, but I have to hit function F3, and I'm going to end to this point here. Now I'm going to turn off the image again, and you'll see that I'm left with this this half of the shape. I'm going to type in mirror, select it, select point to point, the axis that I want to mirror the plane on. It's going to ask me to erase a source object. No is the prompt that's given to you, the default rather. I'm going to hit enter, boom. So now you see that I've quickly created that second piece. I'll turn back on the image. Pretty close to what I've designed. And then you'll have the rest of the piece of site furniture here. This kind of leg or stem. And you would do the same thing if you'd like. I could have drawn it all collectively. I'm making sure that it just ends where it's supposed to end. And actually, let me go back in there and draw another line straight up. Now I drew these lines as two separate pieces, and I don't want them to be. That's not really clean. So I'm going to join them. I'm going to fuse them by doing P, E for polyline edit, enter. I'm going to hit M for multiple. I'm going to select that line and that line that's sitting on top, enter. J for join, enter, one, enter. And now they should be a one line segment. So I'm going to mirror that. And again, I'm selecting that axis line, enter, enter, and there is my stem. I'm going to turn that off. Turn it off. And you see that I have the second piece of this drawing done. Alright, so once you have your pieces drawn, and I would just cast these lines over, so I would just, offset whatever this height needs to be. That's the 4'7" I would just draw a line here. Let me see, bring it down. and then copy it over just to make sure it's the same height. Let's bring it over here for now. That's somewhere around here. The width would be the same width as this, so I'll just touch these edges, making sure I'm on the farthest point on that shape. I'm just going to draw a line here and copy that over, and that's going to be provide the width for this next shape. And RO for rotate. Make sure I'm getting my midpoint, and that's represented by the triangle. Rotate it. Now if you have your ortho on F8, it should snap to a 90. So there. And then we'll just move that over from the midpoint again to this midpoint. And that will provide you with your, so I can find it. There it is. And that'll provide you with your central axis for your new, the last form, the front view. So once you have all this information done, you will dimension it. Also, what I've done, let me take you to this completed file, which is here. No, which is here. Take you to this completed file. In layout, let me go to model. So I'm in my model space, and you'll see that I've actually dropped in some hatches too, and I've played with some of the color. Now you have what these things are called line weights, pen settings in AutoCAD, and we use Sasaki pen settings in our program, coming from Sasaki, the firm that Anna came from. And if you don't have those, let us know so we can make sure they're on your computer. And I'll show you that in a second. But I've dropped a hatch in. In order to drop a hatch in, you would just hit H for hatch, and I have a dialog box that would be similar to what you see. I'm going to select in here and scroll through and just select the hatch that I want to use. Say it was a brick. Select the interior. In this case, it's casting and showing me what it's going to be, and I have a dialog box to change the scale of this thing. So make it 0.3, a little bit smaller, 0.1, even tinier, and it will give you the form of brick, or the hatch of bricks in your area, your specified area. Okay, so I've just done this to kind of represent that this is going to be perforated in some sense. At least that's my general design intent. Okay, delete that. I've dimensioned all these so that we have what we need to build the SketchUp model, and so that when we print these pieces off, we actually have something that's dimensioned so we can see and people can understand, and we can understand what our intended size is going to be for this piece of furniture. So once you have this created, what you want to do is create a layout. In mine, I'm going to layout number 1. You should have a tab that just says layout, and what you want to do is right click on yours and edit the page setup. I'm just going to click on this on mine. You'll see that we have pen settings. I'm using LDI, which came from a firm that I work for. Same principle, but the colors are a little bit different. And the way that, let me explain that. The way that that works is that when we draw, and this is something that you're all familiar with, we talked about using line thickness. Well, in CAD, since everything is drawn basically on one plane, you don't really specify line thickness because you're using a mouse as an interface. You are able to allocate a color to a specific size, a width. So in LDI 2007, the red lines are very thin, where the white line is the thickest line. And we can kind of see that through this track. You see the typical color spectrum you see in CAD is going to be the red, yellow, green, cyan, blue, magenta, and white. And the way the LDI system works is it starts from red being the thinnest and works its way up to white being the thickest line. So when you draw, you don't have to think about thickness as long as you know that, you know, red is the thinnest line and white is the thickest. You know, it's already pre-programmed in. So when you plot or you print, it will print with those corresponding thicknesses, or those thicknesses that correspond with the color. So that's what the pen settings are. So anyway, you'd go to Edit Page Setup. Under your Plot Style table, you would select Sasaki. You should go DWG to PDF for your printer type. I don't have that. I'm on a Mac, so I'm using letter. And you can manage custom sizes here and do different things. But we're using 8.5 by 11 for this, so that's fine. Making sure that it's in landscape and not portrait for this, and I selected OK. Now I've done that already, so my page is already set up, but sometimes your window, and this is a viewport. Viewport is your window into the CAD world, into your model space. It's like a window. So you might have to move it around and adjust it, and I'm just grabbing the grips and dragging it out to make sure that it fills the frame of the layout that you've created. Now you can scale within this, but we're not really worried about that because this is dimensioned. And I locked this one. I did lock it. Let me unlock it. I'm just going to select the viewport, right click, and display locked, and no. So if I double click on this, now now it's like I've opened the window and I'm manipulating the drawings that I've created in model space. So I can zoom in and out. You just want to find a zoom and an area that you're still in your print boundary. Again, you can scale in here, but we're not doing that in this particular exercise. We're just, because we're going to change the shape when we put them into our board anyway. I just want to make sure they're going to be a decent size so that we can see them. Alright, there's that. Back to paper space, PS for paper space, enter. Control P. And if you have yours set up to DWG PDF, it'll print to PDF. I have to select as a PDF. I'll put it to the desktop to demonstrate this to you all. I'll plot it out. And when I go to it here, you'll see that the line thicknesses are represented. So you see that I have blue, and then this yellow, and then the dimension lines are red. So if I look at the thickness carefully, you see obviously the blue is popping out, but my red is the thinnest line, and then the yellow is a little bit thicker. So it gives the drawing a little bit more depth. And once you have that, you'll just save it out, and we'll use these when we place, we'll place these into our final board, but also use these as a template to begin to build our 3D model and SketchUp from.